there, I am back. This is Dr. Karoline Bethea-Jones, and I am here today for another episode of Real Talk with Real People, and I have a guest today. And my guest is named Jonathan Travis. Hello, Jonathan.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Can't complain.
Good. I'm really happy that you decided that you wanted to come and talk to me.
I'm honored that you actually asked me to be a guest.
Well, you know, I want to have a lot of guests, and I like to have a lot of interesting guests. So we're going to talk about a lot of things.
That's good.
So why don't you tell me about yourself?
Jonathan Travis. I currently work for DCP&P. I've been doing that for approximately 15 years. Graduate of Morehouse College, proud graduate of Morehouse College, historically black college, all male. I also am an actor. I now am a playwright / director. So I'm just trying. That's my main hobby. That takes me away from the real world. Everything that's going on, it relaxes me. It releases my stress. So that's my baby, I guess you could say, in a way.
Yeah.
Acting.
That's good. And I like how you said that takes you away from the real world, because I'm looking at your resume here, and plus you said that you've been basically working at the Division of Child Protection for like 15 years. Now, that must be some heavy work.
It is heavy work. You see a lot. You experience a lot. Unfortunately, sometimes when you see something that's so bad over and over again, you become numb to it. So other people, when they hear my stories, they be like, oh, I don't know how you do this every day. But unfortunately, like after a while, I don't want to say numb in a negative way, but unfortunately, it becomes like normal. Unfortunately, and you with a job like that, you definitely need something to relax you, to take your stress away, to take your mind off of what's going on there, to re-energize, refresh yourself. You know. Yeah.
You said normal, though. It's kind of hard to say normal when it comes to stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And especially, and I don't mean to cut you off, but with everything that's happening in the world right now, with I don't really want to mention his name, but with our current situation with children being detained and held and separated from their parents,
right.
How does that make you feel? I mean, seeing that every single day in your job.
It's funny that you bring that up in that context, because when they first started talking about placing children in what they call them, cages, quote unquote cages, the first thing that popped into my head was that I know based off experience, when I was in grad school, I wrote my grad school paper to graduate on the analysis of child protective services in black families. And in me writing that paper, I learned so much about child protective service, basically the other side. I'm working my job, the trainings I have, they're going to teach you what they want to teach you. You're going to learn what they teach you. The policies is based off of what they feel is best for their families. But when I did my paper, it's a 30-page paper I did, you learn statistics, you learn policy, you learn so many other things on a federal level, national level that you wouldn't learn at these trainings that they're giving at my job. Not to say that what they're teaching at my job, that trainings are negative. It's just that there's so much other information out there that I wasn't aware of till I did this paper. And one of the first things you learn, whether or not you do research or you just go to trainings in this job, is that when you remove children from their families, there's going to be psychological damage.
Of course.
There's going to be physical abuse from other children who are going through similar situations, not know how to deal with it, not know how to cope with what's going on in their life. And unfortunately, you're going to have children sometimes in placements that's sexually abused. I'm just telling you factual information. So when they said that these children were going to be separated from their parents, I automatically knew what was coming.
Right.
There's nothing, and when I said normal before about what I see, I don't mean that it is normal, but sometimes when like anything you see over and over every day, you see it 5 days a week, 8 to 10 hours a day. It's not normal, but it's almost like this is what happens, this is what I do, I've seen this already. So not to say it's normal, but unfortunately 9 to 5 it kind of becomes your life. And to go back to what I was saying, already knew what was going to happen with these children being separated from their parents. I mean, just common sense. If a child, if you don't have any experience with child protective services, and you're a parent, and somebody takes your child away from you, you already know that you're not going to eat like you eat. You're not going to function like you function. You're not going to be able to do your day-to-day routine.
Right.
So to think that these children not only coming from another country, they're already going through trauma in their own country where they're from, and their parents are fleeing to get away from the gang violence and everything else occurring, the poverty, and the route they have to take to come here. Sometimes they do come without parents. Sometimes they have the coyotes, who are people that the parents pay lots of money to get the children to the U.S. How do you think nothing is going to happen to these children that's going to make their situation worse than what it already is?
Right. What do you think about the policy, though?
Oh, I'm definitely not. You mean as far as the children being separated from their parents?
As far as what's been happening lately with all of it.
I'm definitely not in agreement with any of it. No, I'm not in agreement with any of it. Whether my issue is that whether you're for undocumented people coming to this country, staying in this country, whatever your view is on immigration, the way that it's occurring is just like, first, we're human, and then we are who we are, our nationality, our race. But we're human, and just being human, you deserve to get treated with like a human. The basic necessities: you have water, sleep, food, like just the basics. And to know that some of these people are not, or a lot of these people are not even given the basic necessities to survive: clothing, water. I saw a couple weeks ago on the news they were trying to justify why they don't need soap and toothbrushes. I mean, we're human at the end of the day. Right. There's nothing I don't think anybody in the world could do. I don't say that, but there's just not too many things people could do that you would just take away their basic necessities in order to survive. Right.
Especially since they didn't do anything except try to have a better life.
Right. And these are children, so they didn't have a decision. Right. And a lot of people, I think, forget that these are children that are going with their parents. So it's not like you're 7 years old, 8 years old, you're going with your parents. It's not like you can say to your parents, no, I want to stay here, I don't want to go. These children are going with their parents. And at the end of the day, you can be angry about what's going on, but you have to remember in the back of your head that these children didn't have a decision with what their parent, like, they didn't have a decision about what decision their parents made. They didn't have a say in it. Right. So now they're suffering because of a decision their parents made to better their life. But then on top of that, they're suffering because we're trying to, I guess, prove that you're not going to come to this country in a certain manner. I honestly don't know what the goal is, to be honest. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I don't know what the goal is either. I have kind of mixed feelings about it too, because where I do understand that we have to protect our borders. Right. I don't think that that's a question as to whether or not the United States should protect the borders. Right. But again, I'm with you. It's how we treat people that come here. Right. There still have to be some type of protocol put in place where we're not causing more damage than we are harm. So I only brought that up because I know that you work in that type of a situation and it's your daily.
I knew this. As soon as they said, matter of fact, I had a discussion with my friend a while back. He was saying some things that I disagree with. And one of the first things I brought up was this wasn't going to work out. Okay. Just based off my job. And then if you just basic economics, like, this is expensive to do. So people are like, oh, we can't keep paying for this, paying for that. But you're okay with this, which costs the taxpayers a lot more money.
A lot more money.
So it's just...
So it's not a money issue at all.
No, it's trying to prove a point, in my opinion. That's all it's about. It's trying to prove a point.
And what's the point? That if you come over here, we're going to make your life so miserable that you won't want to come over here.
Nah, it's not. It's who comes over here. Everybody comes over here has to deal with that. It's people. Certain people have to.
All right, so I'm really glad you brought that up because I was treading lightly, but we don't have to tread lightly. We can speak our piece.
Yeah, it's certain people that can't come over here, and if they come over here, they're treated a certain way.
Okay, because isn't everybody in the United States a melting pot of cultures didn't we? Well, not us, but you know what I mean. Didn't they all come over here in the same manner? Okay, maybe not illegally. Maybe they didn't illegally cross over, but I mean, what is the whole idea of the Statue of Liberty, the Ellis Island, to give us your poor, give us your wretched, give us your whatever? Didn't we invite this? Didn't we? When I say we, and I'm talking about the United States, it's like a neon sign that says, "Hey, we will give you refuge. Come over here, and you will find your happiness because everyone has a right to happiness." Isn't that what we stand for?
I think that's yes and no. And it's funny you said about the Statue of Liberty. I don't know if you saw. I saw the article really quick, like right before I came. Matter of fact, somebody from the Trump administration.
Oh, I saw that article.
He said he kind of made his own little quote from the Statue of Liberty, saying, "Only come over here if you can stand on your own 2 feet."
Yeah,
so
but I don't think that's originally how it was.
No, yeah. I mean, come on. He's from a group of people that have been privileged in America. They got the land. They put in policies. They put in laws that help them advance tremendously.
Okay.
So for him to say that America's built off slavery and as well as other immigrants, the Chinese built the railroad. You know, everybody knows the history. Well,
right.
Not everybody, but
not everybody knows the history.
But you should know that basically America was built off of several different people, off of cheap labor.
Yes.
People treated like property, slaves.
Yes.
So to say that people have to come over here and they should come over here and be able to stand on their own 2 feet. That will go back to the beginning of when this country first started established. They wasn't standing on their first two. They weren't staying on their own 2 feet when they first got here. They needed the Native Americans to show them around how to survive, to build. They needed the slaves to get the economy going. So I mean, a lot of the stuff that they say, people will take it because it sounds good, and people often forget that everybody needed help along the way at one point or another. I think a lot of people just think that they really did get things on their own, or made their achievements on their own. But I don't care who you are. Me personally, at some point in your life, you received help along the way.
Of course, every one of us.
Yeah, some people more than others, but
a lot of people more than others.
Right, but at the end of the day, nobody. I've never met a person, even if they think they have. I could prove to them at some point they didn't. Nobody ever made it to where they got on their complete on their own. That's bogus, and for him to think that's what the Statue of Liberty means that's just, it's disappointing.
Yeah. There was another article I just read about the FBI list.
Oh boy.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to get so political right off the bat. I'm gonna put you on the spot though.
It's good. It's fine. I don't mind talking about this stuff. I know you're talking about the black extremists, the black identity extremists.
Okay, I would like to know the definition of that, because I might fall in that category. You might fall in that category. So I'm wondering, what is the definition of that?
You know what it is. You know what it is.
But I want you to say it.
Man, I look at that now. Okay, so let's just, for everybody who doesn't know, let's just clarify. They said not only are they targeting, or they're putting black identity, is it? Extremists on the list. I believe it's black identity extremists on the list, FBI list.
Yes.
They're saying they're a bigger threat than Al Qaeda and white nationalists.
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
So that's the leak that came out.
That's exactly what they're saying. We're a bigger threat
than Al Qaeda and white nationalists.
Oh my gosh.
So
I just read that.
So anybody that knows COINTELPRO, once again, they took down the Black Panther, set up Martin Luther King. This is the FBI. These are leaked documents that came out in the 70s. J. Edgar Hoover led the FBI. They came out. They found this information that basically J. Edgar Hoover did not like black nationalists. He did not like black civil rights movement leaders, whatnot. So he basically tracked them, set them up, he had the Black Panthers writing letters to each other to sabotage their organization, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't be surprised by this. And I'm just not surprised by it because since we've been discovered, I want to say, discovered by.
We were not discovered.
I'm being sarcastic. I'm being sarcastic.
Okay,
I'm being sarcastic. Since some people met us for the first time a couple hundred years ago. So I'm basically saying, I'm being sarcastic, but some people met us a few hundred years ago. we've been studied since.
You think?
We've been studied. Oh, you know we have. We've been
Okay.
studied since.
Listen,
they have the test.
we might be having some listeners out there who may not understand this stuff. This may be new to some 18-year-old or someone.
Please don't take my word. Research everything I'm telling you.
We
Research
hope everyone
everything.
will begin to research.
We do need that. People need to research because
Yes.
I'm going to tell you. I'm gonna try to come back though. That's another issue I have. Why do we always wait for people to present information to us? Like I felt some type of way when people the documentary the 13 came out.
Yeah, 13.
And everybody started like, oh, did you know about this about Clinton? Did you know about the prison? Then the new Jim Crow. And I'm like, I'm glad y'all just getting into this, but this information is old. This information's been out.
It's information that's been out, but you got to understand that people receive information at different times. We awaken at different moments.
Right.
We get aware at different aspects of our life as we take this journey. It's not the same for everybody.
And I have no problem with that. My problem is that people, and I see with the Central Park 5 movie that came out as well. I have no issue.
It was hard to watch. I don't think, for me, I knew about the Central Park Fire. I knew when it was happening. It was. My comment was the movie was hard to watch.
Right. No, I agree with that. But my issue is that you disagree with me, but I think we wait too much for information to come to us instead of us going to get it. When the information,
I won't disagree with you with that. I will not, because that's my whole life. I'm a researcher. That's what I do. But it's not the norm, Jonathan. It's not the norm. It's not the norm for people to just go out and start looking for information. That's not the norm. I think it takes a special mind in a person to go out there and try to search for things and try to gather information. I think the norm is you sitting around waiting for things to happen. That's the norm. You don't think that's the norm?
I think, honestly, I think it's. Yes,
you can disagree.
No.
Me.
I'm trying to. I do agree with you. But at the same time, it's the part I disagree about. I'm trying to find out how to word it. So I especially think that if you're educated, for example, right? If you're educated, and you have a clue about some of what's going on, something about the economy doesn't make sense. Something about how is it that 50% of presidents are black? Don't quote me on numbers. Something. I'm just throwing stuff out there.
No, I know. Make an example.
Right, and you just leave it at that. At what point do you go out and say, I need to find out more about this, or something doesn't make sense? So that's the part where I would say, like, I can't wait for somebody to bring that to me. Like I'm not. I never studied economics. I don't know much about like the world economy, but because this has become after the Great Depression, I became very curious about the economy. So I actually started reading books about the economy. I started watching documentaries about the economy, because people will start telling you stuff like, people on welfare, people who are poor and on welfare, they make it spend all this tax money. But then I come to find out that corporate America actually gets more tax money, more government benefits than poor people combined. Yeah. So that's just an example of, like, at some point, where do we take the responsibility of trying to find out information? Because one of the issues I have is that the media is always going to tell you what they want you to know.
Of course.
So when do we break out? When do we break out of that? When do we say, I need to find out for myself?
I would love to know the answer to that.
Right.
I do not know.
Right.
But I do know that I've encountered more people who are not interested in doing the research than I have with people who are like you or like myself, who there ain't no way in the world I'm going to take anybody's word for anything.
Right.
I am always researching.
But then let me ask you, so when those people, I can't get it. I don't understand at one point when you can do better, you do better. Because at my point, because you're just going to keep waiting for people to tell you stuff. And I just have an issue, like, especially black people, like, we can't just keep waiting for people to give us information, because they only tell you what they want to tell you.
Exactly.
They
but don't you think there's some kind of programming done there too? I mean,
I think
I was getting ready to say. I mean, this is not just something that we just got. I think it's been deliberate. There's a deliberate program. You remember there was a time when black people couldn't even read.
Couldn't read.
It was against the law for you to read. Now we had our few We had our few, obviously, who defied the law so that they can get this information. But it wasn't the norm, Jonathan. You know that.
Right.
And they were scared to death.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying. I completely understand.
So we
what
got
you're
to
saying.
break that program. But if the question is how long is it going to take for the program to be broken, that's a legitimate question. I'd like to know, how long does this take? Because I remember when I first read the Willie Lynch letters.
Right.
Oh my God,
Willie,
that was like mind blowing to me. But
it's very accurate. Still true today.
okay,
Still true today.
okay. So how do we break that? Because anything that you talk about, whether it's religion, whether it's science, or whether it's physics, or whether it doesn't matter what it is, there has to be a transformation. There has to be a transformation in your mind. You have to be able to think differently.
I definitely it's definitely psychological. You're right. I guess like my expectations are high for people, black people, and I'm gonna throw Hispanic people in there too. They're oppressed, marginalized, people of color. A lot of them went through the same thing, slaves, just in different countries.
We'll say black and brown people.
Right. Colorism and all that.
Yes.
I had to point that out because sometimes they have a disconnect. But that's a whole nother story. But I definitely recommend. My favorite book of all time is The Miseducation of the Negro.
Okay.
By Carter G. Woodson, founder of Black History Week, turned into a month. So just in case everybody know, they didn't give us the shortest month of the year. But anyhow, he talks about that in a lot in his book, about how he doesn't use the word really psychological, but how we are trained to just go a certain way. It's been a while. I don't want to. He says something like.
I've read the book and I can't quote a single thing. So
I just want to. It's a part where he says like, as far as the, like Negro being programmed to train, that if you have a soul program to train, I'm paraphrasing, that if you tell us to go out the back door and there isn't a back door, we will make a back door just to go out of it. I'm paraphrasing, but it's and basically he's saying that once you have a black person soul programmed to believe and do certain things, we'll do it even if we have to create it ourselves to do it. And you're right, we have to get out of that.
Right, but the question is how do we change that programming? Because you're not the only person that I've had this conversation with. Now I have this conversation with a lot of people, but not enough people.
Honestly, I think the blueprint has already been given to us by these guys earlier, and women too earlier. I mean that by guys and because I would say guys and girls, but I want to say that, but guys and women earlier. Ida B. Wells, Booker T,
right, yes.
Carter G. They all studied this. They all lived it. And I think they gave us the blueprint. I think we just never picked it up and followed it, or we're trying to recreate something that doesn't really necessarily sometimes need to be recreated. I think the answer's right there. We just don't apply it, and it's not exposed. And I think we have to. But at the same time, then there's just black people that just don't want to believe certain information. It's complicated, like you said, a program.
It's very complicated.
But I think more exposure is needed. I think more exposure, and I think people like me and you, and I don't know everything, and going back to what you said, there's a time where you start researching, like Malcolm X has a saying, like, you don't, if somebody doesn't know what you know, just remember that there was a time you didn't know what you know.
Exactly.
Or knew. It's tiresome. It's tiresome. Like me, sometimes, like I've been.
But you can't get tired.
No, you can't get tired, but you do get tired.
Yes, you do get tired, but we can't afford to get tired.
I know.
We have to continue.
I know.
We can't.
I know, but
there's no such thing as too tired.
Yeah, we don't have that option.
And I know sometimes you feel like you're beating your head against the wall, because sometimes I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall.
Right. I said many times I give up on my people.
Okay, but you know what? And I've been there.
And I come back.
And then you have to you take a little break, and then you get back on that horse, because you can't stop. None of us can stop.
Right.
We have to continue.
Right.
We have to continue because somebody fought for us.
Right. And they fought.
Exactly.
Maybe literally some of them fought.
Exactly.
Fought and died.
Right. So I know that you're very political. And as we begin to talk about
But
your
I don't
play,
like politics.
okay, you know what? I don't like politics, but politics is in everything.
I just had to throw that out there.
Okay.
I don't like politics, but you're right, I am political.
You're very political.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your play, because the reason why I say that is because I thought your play was political.
Okay.
Okay, I thought it was. I thought that there was aspects of it. Ain't no aspects of it. The whole play
Right.
was on a political level. So tell me what drove you to write that piece, and let's tell our listeners what the name of this play is.
The play is called AnyTown US of A. The play is basically about a young teenager, black teenager, who is killed by a white officer unarmed. The white officer is supervised by a black lieutenant who is in denial that race had anything to do with the young boy being killed, even though the officer has a history of harassment in this minority neighborhood, black and brown neighborhood. Complaints against him, the lieutenant's just in denial about it, denial about racism. Pretty much overall, he feels that since he was able to achieve great success at a young age, and his wife was able to as well, who is Hispanic, that there's really no excuses for black and brown people not to be successful and achieve their goals. And at the same time, this young man this teenager was being raised by his sister and lived with a cousin. So they had a disagreement about basically how his murder should be handled. The sister would look had a more passive viewpoint, felt that speaking to the people, believing in the system will achieve the goals she wants for her brother's death, while the cousin was like, this is enough, I'm tired of this, we need to handle this death a different way, we need to let these people know we're tired of these young black teenagers being killed, or just black men being killed by police or systematically oppressed. It's enough is enough. So that's pretty much. I don't want to tell the end because
right. We want to give them an opportunity to come and see it.
Play, right.
But there are so many topics that we can discuss in that particular play. Let's start with the obvious, the disparity, the way some black people feel about other black people. Like you said, this was a black lieutenant who's married to a Latino woman who feels like they made it, and so they don't understand why other black people. And the reason why I want to start there is because you hear that a lot. Just because we have a sprinkling of black people who have been allowed to make it, I think it's sometimes we stop and we start thinking that, well, if you did it, then why can't the rest of you do it? And I think we forget sometimes that we have been systematically held down on purpose, and just because maybe a few of us was able to make it, we cannot stop thinking that there's not a system that's against us. So let's talk about that for a little bit, because I think that's an important topic to talk about.
I heard something called, somebody said before, there's the exception and there's the rule. So you can't keep making that person that's the exception like the rule, which means that basically just because a few black people do make it to the top or become successful, don't think that is the general rule for all black people. I had to put that in there because honestly, I feel like in real life, I run into that too often.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I was just having a discussion with my mother. I had a discussion with my mother because both my parents grew up poor. My mom was the first one in her family to graduate from college. So financially growing up, that was like one thing I think I didn't really have to worry about. But my mother always, my father too, for the most part, my father too, by his actions, always was like, you don't ever think you're better than somebody. Mm-hmm. They always gave back to like the neighborhood, to their family who were less fortunate than us. So I grew up in an environment that even though me personally, I didn't have to worry about a meal or my lights staying on, I was around that type of environment. My parents reminded me that could be you.
Right.
And when I got older, I didn't just view it as like, that's them and that's me. I viewed it as my parents teaching me that it's basically like, don't separate yourself from them. Don't, because you are still them. That's still your community. That's still your family. Yes. And that always stuck with me. So when I meet other black people that make it, and kind of make smart remarks or kind of separate themselves, or they look down at other black people, it bothers me a lot, because it's like, honestly, I could be like you. My parents could have raised me to be like you, but they didn't. And it's only like a check that can, sometimes a check that will separate, that's separating you from everybody else. So you get laid off, all of a sudden you're back with the group of people who you thought you were better than.
Right.
And now you want to act like nothing happened, but it doesn't work like that. You ignored them, you act like you didn't need them, but now you're in a jam, you're back with them, you want them to accept you, and it doesn't work like that. So I just think that overall, even when black people make it, another way to look at it is that you're still going to have, like, for example, me, you're still going to have that cousin going to jail. You're still going to have that family member that's going to be evicted.
But, black people are not the only...
Well, it affects us more because we're disproportionately affected by poverty, disproportionately affected by people going to prison. We're disproportionately affected by police presence. So we're disproportionately affected by the educational system, by being put out the class, suspended. We're just automatically, because of who we are, affected more. So you're right, it's not just our community, but it affects us more. So we can't ignore everyone else, because it could come back to us, because just like I don't have the option of, like, I have the option of being like, I'm a black guy with a college degree who works for the state, and so I don't really have to worry about the police bothering me, because if they pull me over, I could just say, hey, I don't have anything, I don't have any drugs, I don't have any guns, and my license is good, I'll be on my way as soon as you just give me this ticket, or don't give me the ticket. But at the end of the day, I don't have that option, because I know in the back of my head, he doesn't look at me, he doesn't know nothing about me. He looks at me as a black man that he doesn't know nothing about, and that I'm just as big as a threat as any other criminal, regardless of their race.
Exactly.
So I don't have that option of separating myself. And a lot of people think they do. I watched a documentary or news, I think this was right around the time of Trayvon Martin. This black guy said he doesn't allow his sons to wear hoodies. They have to wear pants all the time. Middle class black family. He felt if his children dressed a certain way,
or looked a certain
way, they won't have to deal with racism. They won't have to worry about police bothering them.
But do you think that was true once upon a time? When I say once upon a time, I mean, like, wasn't there a time when, yes, that might have been true?
Martin Luther King was killed in his suit. Malcolm X was killed in his suit. Black men were lynched in their suit. Black women raped in their dresses.
So no, that's the answer is no.
There's somebody, because people say that, and I just be like, well, how do I dress? Like, I don't understand that question. Like, what is the look for me to pass? I don't know.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something, a quick story.
Yeah.
I had someone, a white girl, a white woman, I won't call her a girl, tell me that when she would see black women walking down the street on the same side as her, she would cross the street.
Right.
But she said to me that, but you are different. If I saw you, I wouldn't cross the street.
You'd accept
and
the
I really, and I kind of did the double take look, like I needed to understand what you meant by that.
Because they think that's a compliment.
How was that a compliment?
Because this is how a lot of black people measure themselves in success. Just to go back to the question a little bit, we measure our success based off of how we're accepted by mainstream society, by the masses. If we move to a certain neighborhood, oh, you doing better than so and so, or you made it. Versus, I live in this neighborhood, I'm making the same amount of money as you, I choose to live here, but you not gonna look at me as successful because I didn't move to that neighborhood. So she looks at you differently because she finds you more acceptable. Because
so I'm a safe black woman.
Because she knows you. But if she didn't know you,
she know me.
If she didn't know you, she probably would still cross the street.
Exactly.
And that's, you know what though, and honestly, you brought that up. I know we're kind of skipping, but we go back to.
No, we're gonna go back to where we're going back to.
But honestly, like, I just want people to know. Like, I don't know who's listening, but that's like mentally damaging to black people. Like today, and sometimes it comes to a point where you don't know if like you're paranoid or not. Like today, for example, and it's like I deal with this on a regular as a black man. I'm walking to the parking lot. I work at Patterson. I'm walking from my building. I'm dressed I'm gonna tell you what I'm wearing right now. Just like I got a button-up linen shirt, khaki pants, and shoes, bald headed. I'm walking out of the building to the parking garage. It's about 100 feet between those two buildings, or the parking garage and the building. Another woman, Caucasian, is walking towards the entrance of the garage, same direction, but coming from a different angle. She's coming from a different building. She looks at me, stops, walks a little bit in the opposite direction, stops. So I'm like, all right. Then she looks at me like she's coming back towards the garage. I'm still walking, regular pace. Then she looks at me like she's coming back towards the garage. Then she looks at me, stops, turns around again. Automatically, I'm thinking, she doesn't want to walk in the parking garage while I'm walking
While
the parking.
you're in the parking garage,
Mind you,
yes.
so I'm supposed to be an acceptable Negro. I'm coming from work at a building. I got a button-up shirt on, got pants on. I'm walking to the garage just like you walking to the garage. But I'm not seen. I'm seen as a black man.
Right.
I'm not seen as somebody that just left work that's probably making more money than her. I'm seen as that black man that's probably going to rob her.
Right.
And could I be wrong about my assumption of why she was pacing back and forth? I could be, but based off of experience,
Yes.
I'm not wrong.
Now
because
psychologically, you're thinking, okay, this is, and I'm the same way.
it could be innocence. It's like they
Yes.
say when you go in the store and they ask you if you need help. Sometimes black
It's like,
people.
why you asking me that?
Right,
Is it because I'm black?
Right, and it could be innocent. They could just really be trying to help you, but because you've been followed in a store before, or because you haven't been treated like you may have a certain amount of money, now you don't know what to think. You're messed up in the head. You're like, are they actually trying to help me, or are they just trying to see what I'm doing in the store, trying to fish for what I'm doing in the store? And that's the same thing that I'm trying to prove right now in the parking lot, is that that's something I do on occasion, and it's so obvious. I don't think people know whether or not it's obvious when they do it. I see you clutching your pocket, but
Yes.
I feel your uncomfortableness. I feel you looking down at the ground. I see it. It's like, it's so obvious. It's so obvious.
Yes.
And I just want people to know that you can mentally like destroy a person as far as when they go in public places by you doing that, because now you're uncomfortable. Even if they don't want to be uncomfortable, they're uncomfortable, because how can you really be comfortable around people that ain't comfortable around you?
Exactly.
So I just wanted to put that out there, because you brought that up and it happened to me today, and you just get sick and tired of it. Honestly, you get so sick and tired of it. And it's like, and like I said, you start to become paranoid.
And what do black people have to do in order to?
There's nothing, man.
So you already gave up on that, huh? It's like, there ain't nothing we could do.
Man. Like my father told me when he gave me the talk about getting pulled over by the police. He gave me that talk when I was 17. Got pulled over by the police a couple of times. He said, I'm gonna tell you, I was mad frustrated because this is new to me at that age. Just got my license, 17, 18 years old, been driving a year. So I've been pulled over, I think it was like 3 times or something, I can't remember. But the last time I had to get out the car, and I was with my friend, the police searched the car. And I went home and told my dad, and I was mad. I'm like, we gonna do this, we need to. My dad told me the proper way of handling that situation, which is, filing a report with the police department. But he also told me how to act when that happens.
Now, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with the fact that we have to now teach our young black boys how to act. Not if they get pulled over by a police officer, but when they get pulled over by a police officer. I think that's ridiculous.
It is.
And that has become the norm in our neighborhood. And I'm not really not really happy with it being the norm.
Anyway, I'm not happy, but to finish what my dad said, in relating to what you're saying, he's saying, and that's never going to stop. 17 years old, he told me it's never going to stop. He said, I just got pulled over the other night. So
it's never going to stop. And it's okay. We're going to accept that. It's never going to stop.
And it kind of relates to what I said before. It becomes normal. It's not normal, but it becomes
should we be
normal.
making it normal?
I don't make it normal.
But my question is not, should you be making it normal? Should we, as a people, accept that this is normal? I know I'm only 58 years old, and therefore that I've missed that whole, 60s, and I was born in 1961, but obviously I missed that whole era in which black people were treated so horrifically with the dogs and the water holes and you know all that stuff. But I mean, in the beginning, I think I was okay with just, this is status quo. But like you said, education, my research, and me literally just transforming my own mind. I can't accept this anymore. This is not normal, and I can't take this as being normal. And I know if I'm not careful, I'm going to find myself in trouble. I get that. But I just can't, I feel like we need to be doing a little bit more, saying a little bit more, demanding a little bit more. And I know that when I talk like that, it puts us in a position where, okay, that list we was talking about earlier, gonna land us right on it.
What? My question is.
But I feel like this is not normal.
It's not. It's normal to Black America. It's not normal, but it's normal to Black America. Like I don't know how it's not normal. Like I don't like when I talk to people of other races. I tell them like me and my friends, we and relatives, older relatives, just other Black men. We have that conversation about police. I said it's crazy how sometimes we can name the neighborhoods automatic. Like we know the neighborhoods not to drive through, or we know the neighborhoods if we drive through what's going to happen. We know what to do. We know we could be in a car together and know that this police officer is about. It's just crazy to know that it's automatic for us. But some people can't comprehend that. They think like
because
we getting
it ain't normal.
Right.
That's right.
They think it's we getting together and like we like the cop this, the cop that. No, it's this is our life. And even though we can live in different neighborhoods, we might not know each other at one point of our life, but know each other later on. We all have that common experience, and it unfortunately it is. I know what you're saying. You don't like the word normal, and I don't know. I'm using the right.
That's the only word we can use. The only word we can use is normal because it's been your everyday, all your life, the 58 years, even before I even knew this was happening.
Right.
It was happening. It wasn't until I started to notice when I was probably more like 18 or 19. Started something. Something's a little strange. I'm being treated a little differently.
Right.
But then I started thinking back when I was in school. When I was in elementary school, and then I started remembering how I was treated differently.
Right.
I started remembering how, okay, it was all I knew then,
right.
and it was normal.
Right.
Until you start realizing that it ain't normal.
To everybody else, that don't exist.
Right, and
right.
then you start looking back at all the many times you were treated differently.
Right.
All the many times because of your color.
Right. That's when you get the most frustrated, like that example I gave today. Like, I was perfectly fine. Probably didn't know I was Black today happened. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, you didn't know you was that type of Black man.
No, I ain't gonna forget that. Where they put I'm a regular Black man. They ain't separating me from nobody else. But I mean, like, I know I'm Black every day. But I mean, like, then there's that incident happens that you're like, oh yeah, I'm Black.
Oh yeah,
like,
I forgot I was Black.
Like Black.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now in the play, the young boy, what was his name again?
Jameer.
Right. So Jameer was shot.
Right.
And he wasn't even doing anything. He was literally doing what he was supposed to do.
Right.
What's the stereotype with young Black boys? Because he was, in the play, he was coming home from detention.
He had a bad day.
Yes, he had a bad day.
Right.
But what is the stereotype? Young boys automatically perceived as being troublemakers or a threat.
Right.
Because it happens, and did you...
I think that a part of that character was me.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you.
And my friends, because like I said, as a teenager, you go through that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, to me that was like simple. And any Black male that acknowledges racism or discrimination, if you deny, you probably can't relate. But if you acknowledge it exists, any Black boy by the age of 18, at least by the age of 18, is going to relate to that character. So I had to make him angry that day, because you know what? Sometimes we are angry, but we don't have the opportunity to be angry and view it as us being angry. When we're angry, we're a threat. We're gonna fight. We're the worst people in the world. We're beasts. We're everything. So
we as a people can't show anger.
We can't show
ever. We can't ever show anger.
We can't.
Because it's going to be
emotion,
it's going to be misconstrued.
Right. We can't show emotion. We can't yell. We can't. If passion is looked at as something else. So, I threw in there him having a bad day, because we're not allowed to have those. If he was calm, maybe the situation would have been different. But you know what? I want him to have a bad day because sometimes we do have bad days. We can be a good person with a bad day, but we don't have that option without consequences.
All right. So you're listening to Real Talk with Real People. I am your host, Dr. Karoline Bethea-Jones, and my special guest today is Jonathan Travis, and we're talking about his latest play.
So
Right. I love your characters. I loved every single one of your characters.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And so did you model them after somebody you knew,
No.
each of the characters?
No, honestly, I just felt like I picked, because this is a complex, my plays, I feel like dealing with complex issues. So I felt like I had to take a black person, I had an Hispanic woman in there.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like a black person, like, who's militant, because there's militant black people.
Mm-hmm.
A black person who believes that racism exists, struggling the best way to deal with it, but is passive about it, more or less. The person that's in denial, the black person in denial about racism. The light-skinned Hispanic woman who's struggling with colorism. Mm-hmm. The teenage black boy that is trying to find himself, but is considered a threat, even though they could be a good kid. Based off the naked eye, they're a threat, though. But if you got to know that child, he was an honor roll student. Mm-hmm. Then I had to throw in the complex issues we deal with systematically, as far as the parents not being in the home. I didn't want to stereotype too much, mm-hmm. But I had to acknowledge that in America we have an issue right now where millions of black people are locked up for crimes that, I shouldn't say millions, that's not right, but thousands of black people are locked up for crimes that are nonviolent, and they're doing a long time for that. So I had to throw that in there. Can't ignore that. And the mental health issue is something that is finally, I think, being acknowledged more in the black community, but still not getting the right attention. So I had to throw that in there too. So I felt like I had to throw a little bit of all type of people from Black America and Latin America in that play, because I wanted people to see how complex it really is for us.
Now, why do you think mental issues in the black community is not being addressed? I mean, it's starting to be addressed,
starting
but
to be acknowledged, yeah.
Why do you think it took so long for even black people to realize that they might need a little help?
Man, honestly, I don't know the answer, but my guess is, one, we don't have the option to have mental health issues. And let's go back to what you were saying earlier, like, because we deal with so much, but we have to keep going. So I think that's part of it. We have to be strong. We have to, like, even though we deal with so much, sometimes nobody wants to hear that. We can't vent to just anybody about our problems. So that's one reason. I think religion has a lot to do with it. A lot of black people are religious to the point where you just pray about it, speak to the pastor about it.
Sadly, that is all the time we have right now. But don't worry, join us again for part 2 of Real Talk with Jonathan Travis. I am your host, Dr. Karoline Bethea-Jones, and I will see you next time on Real Talk with Real People.